I don't want to hurt you. I'm getting anxious. And hey, can I give this person your number? Yes, you can. So let's go back in my history of alcohol and when it all started. Basically, my story is I always sucked. I was in one of the most famous car chases in the country. I knew that I had a problem. I knew I had a problem. You wake up at her home and her parents' place and you're sitting on the couch with shit in your pants. It's not good.
Yeah.
First one to talk to him. One of the hardest interviews I've ever done in my life. It doesn't end well unless it ends.
They never believe me. Yeah, I would never drop the ball. I know I'm
Just report the fucking obvious.
with the defense. I don't care what a critic got to say. I got them picking up the pieces. That to me, you really playing with your life. I'm about to come and
Just
run
a
it all,
motherfucking
baby.
jump. Just go. I was dangerous. I'm grateful that I never hurt someone else. Because that did happen in our town where somebody did black out and did get on I-280 driving the wrong way and killed a family. And I was on the radio at the time and I interviewed the guy's dad on the radio. First one to talk to him. One of the hardest interviews I've ever done in my life. But I understood what happened. It wasn't an excuse. We're responsible. I've always been responsible for me and what I've done. And I have used that part of my life to be better now and continue to use those principles that I used to get sober, to have a better life and to become successful. And that is extreme ownership. Like, I'm one of those people, I hate when people want to say it's not a disease. It is a disease, but it's not a disease in such where I'm not a person that uses the disease word to say that I wasn't responsible. I just have this disease. It's not my fault. No, it is my fault. I have the disease and it's my fault for not controlling it because you can take control of the disease. That is a choice. Now, the only choice I can make is when I choose that first drink. Because after that, my ability to choose is gone. Gone. And I don't care how much willpower somebody thinks they have, how much willpower I had. I had willpower in every other part of my life except for that. I just could not do it. And even today, I will say, could I sit here and have a drink with you, one drink and be done and not have another drink? I believe I could. But you know what that's going to do to my head? That's gonna awaken that demon to tell me, see, you did it then. You can do that now. You can control it now. Yeah. You know how to, you're older. You can control it, Troy. Troy, you can control it. You can have the drink. And I can't. I cannot control it. Because it may be the second time, it may be the fifth time when I'm going to push it and do 2, do 5. And see, you never knew with me, depending on the type of alcohol that it was, whether I would black out at number 7 or number 14. Yeah. We just didn't fucking know, dude. Yeah. And it was a good time drinking for me. If I didn't black out, that's what we called a success. If I didn't black out and I woke up and I hadn't pissed or shit myself, I had a good time, apparently. And that's what we told ourselves, or what I told myself. And so I did get help from my friend when I was up in Michigan, and he took me to a meeting. I asked him to take me, and I got a sponsor. And that's when I started reading the big book and learned about AA and getting sober. And I got sober. And up there, we had a sponsor and a junior sponsor, basically.
Okay.
Where somebody with about 2 years of sobriety, or at least a year, maybe 2 years, was being taught how to be a sponsor by someone else.
Yeah.
And so they kind of co-sponsored.
Yeah,
but you had one main sponsor and then like a co-sponsor.
Yeah.
And it was very, very hardcore. Very hardcore. And I love that because that's what I need. If you listen to me and my clips and the way I talk now and no excuses and rah, 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 I mean, that's what I respond to. And that's how I help people. And why I say I'm not for everyone. I can't help everyone.
Yeah.
I can't help every alcoholic, but there are certain alcoholics that are attracted to me that need what I needed to get sober and need someone to talk to them that way so that they can make whatever progress and get sober and do their thing too.
So was it easy or hard for you? Because I know you said it's hardcore. That's one thing. But for you, was it easy to follow through with that, or was it a little?
I followed
it.
You know what?
A little bit, or
I always did well with teachers who were tough.
Yeah.
And I did good with certain structures like that. So I did good.
Yeah.
I guess it wasn't. I'm not saying it was easy, but it wasn't that hard.
Yeah.
But here's what happened. So I have a year of success up there, staying sober, and I'm enjoyed retail. I thought I was going to spend my life in retail, be a store manager, move up, maybe be move up and be big time executive. Like that. I saw myself as big, like
at the very
not
top
necessarily
of the
CFO, but like up there with the top executive someday.
You're sitting in the business meetings. Yeah.
Something
like that.
Yeah. Because I was like a golden child at that point. Like I was the youngest in the chain to ever do this. I was supposed to go to Columbus and open up one of their big new stores, but somebody else couldn't move. So they needed help at this store to kind of turn the men's department around. I was good at that kind of stuff. Let's send Troy up there. So I didn't get along with the store managers, just us two.
Yeah.
I did the hiring, I did the firing, I did the work. He didn't like it because I didn't want customers, because how I was trained and mentored is when the line is long, sometimes I would jump on a register that had a drawer in it and turn the light on for 5 minutes and get the line down. Get people, because when you're standing in a line like you used to back then, you can't really do that at Costco because they don't leave you a way to do it. But in those types of department stores, there are other things sitting around where if you got a bunch of time on your hand, you're looking through your cart and you're like, I don't need this. I don't need this. And all that shit ends up over here and you're not selling it, right? So I would do that. And your employees appreciated it.
Yeah.
And the guy with the tie, he's checking us out. But it was a way to get to know the customers. Hey, how are you today? It was just
There was
smart.
only benefits to it.
I thought so. And I would do that shit, and he just didn't like it. We just didn't get along. And I remember I fired somebody, and he brought that person back. And it was someone that needed to be fired, right? Violated the things. I did everything properly. Like, you know what, dude? So an opportunity came up and I was homesick. I'm just going to be honest. I'm homesick. At this point, I'm also married. The first time.
At what age? 23, 22?
Let's see. So 88. I get the end of 88. So like I'm 20, like 20, 21. And I'm 20 and she's 26.
Ooh, okay. Got a little cougar over here.
Yeah, I don't know about that, dude. I just know that at one point after being married less than a year, that I knew someday I wanted to have kids, but not with her. So I better get the fuck out. We were like, nice girl, but she had other. I saved her from her mom, living with her mom, and her mom hated men because dad was abusive to her. Gosh. Her brother abused her, like even sexually abuse kind of thing. Like, man, I'm 20. I don't know anything about that shit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it wouldn't get. And we came back, and she didn't like to work very much, and we needed to work. And I opened up this restaurant in Genoa, in my hometown.
Oh, wow.
I bought a restaurant, opened up this restaurant. First night, we're smoked. We're packed. What do you think's going to happen? First night in a small town. It's going to be packed, dude.
Yeah.
Man, she couldn't even take orders. Like, can you take an order? You get right down. Like, you don't have to know, like, how to write shorthand, but just write it the fuck down. And she could do. I was lucky enough because she had been a cashier at the department store. That's how we had met. And I'm like, can you ring people the fuck up? And it just wasn't. It was not good.
What kind of food was it?
It was not good. Greasy Spoon Diner, small town food, meatloaf We had fried bologna sandwiches.
Fried bologna sandwiches.
Thick fried bologna,
I want
dude.
to try that. God damn. I grew up on bologna. So
Yeah,
that
dude.
sounds
Big
delicious.
fried bologna was a big deal, man.
I'm about
Some
to try
places.
that.
Yeah,
I'm about
we
to
had
try
some
that.
good stuff. Knowing what I know today, I could have done it 100 times better than what I did.
Yeah.
Because I would have closed at 2 or 3 o'clock. Because we stayed open and it just didn't work. It
there was
didn't
no
work
money
financially. There's nobody, like I'm just employing people at night and using up all my time.
Oh, yeah.
Fuck that shit.
But you were saying...
Yeah. So that's where I moved back home. I quit the department store, open a restaurant, come back to Genoa.
Okay, so that's when, you decided to quit and then open the restaurant.
And I was close. My family, we were really close back at that point, you know. I'm close with my dad today. My mom passed away. I am not close with my sister. I don't ever expect to again. We tried to cross that bridge one time not long ago. It didn't work. But anyways, I come back to Genoa, open this restaurant, and I'm sober. I'm going to meetings, but I didn't make that meeting my home group, and I didn't get a new sponsor. And I went for a while. I got a divorce. Then this woman who worked down the street, who was 2 years older than me, she was an interior designer.
Okay.
Her and her boss and her boss's husband, they would come in to eat, and she would order hot chocolate, and I started putting extra whipped cream in her hot chocolate. And she never talked to me in high school. Never. So like when I was a freshman, I was one of 2 freshmen that went to junior senior prom.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
I was cool, and I was a good-looking kid. Now I'm a good-looking old dude. And so, yeah.
The whipped cream.
The whipped cream. Extra whipped cream. We did that. But she never talked to me in high school. But I dated, and she was a cheerleader. I dated another junior cheerleader when I was a freshman because she could drive. I'm not stupid. Yeah. Yes.
Gotta look for those benefits, you know.
Gotta look for the benefits. And it's so funny that she never talked to me in high school. But anyways, she started coming in. And then one day she asked about lemon pie. My aunt worked for me as a cook, and my aunt could bake.
Okay.
And I'm like, no, we don't have lemon pie. And so I went and bought whatever we needed to make fucking lemon pie and told my aunt to make a fucking lemon
You
pie.
better make that now.
And I took it down and put it on her car.
Oh.
Yeah. And so we started dating and stuff, and that was my wife, Susan, my ex-wife. That was baby mama.
That's good.
That's my daughter,
story.
Sam's mom. Yeah. And at that point, remember, I'm still not drinking. Okay. I'm still not drinking. We have other friends. Susan and I had mutual friends that also helped hook us up. Like, hey, do you know Susan? And their families had been very, very close. And because she cut my hair, her name was Carrie. Carrie cut my hair. Her and her family was very close to Susan. So they had a little bit of that matchmaking in there too. And they were both at that meeting that I was at. They were recovering alcoholics and were at that meeting. So sometime after that, after Susan and I are together, get married, sometime after that, I don't know what prompted it, but I stopped going to meetings. And I didn't have a sponsor, remember, to be accountable to or to call like, hey, man, I ain't heard from you in 3 weeks, dude. What the fuck's going on or anything? And I started experimenting with non-alcoholic beers. Yeah. That's what I did. Yeah. So I started experimenting with these non-alcoholic beers. And, you know, everybody thought it was okay. Everybody knew I had a drinking problem. Yeah. Okay. But most people, if you're not an alcoholic, you just don't know. Yeah. You just don't fucking understand. And I hate when people who aren't alcoholics or addicts want to give advice to those of us that are, because you don't fucking know. You don't get it. You don't understand, because you're the motherfuckers that think this is okay and that we should just be able to control it anyways and just stop. Yeah, because we love fucking up our lives. We love that more than anything. Yeah, just fuck up your life, DUIs, hurt people, not just physically,
Yeah. Emotionally.
but emotionally. Yeah, we
That's
love that
that's a
part.
big one.
And we love hurting people that we love. That's what is alcohol more important than your wife? No, man. It's not, but I can't control this. I can't stop it. And so that developed. I remember she started working for a different place. And I remember, I don't know what happened. I remember drinking at a wedding and nobody knew I was drinking.
Yeah.
I was sneak drinking. And I don't know if I had done it before that wedding, but then I ended up getting drunk at that because what do I know to do when I drink? I know to get drunk because that's what happened when I would drink. That was the purpose of drinking.
Yeah.
But nothing like stupid, crazy happened. So it's like, this isn't good. You shouldn't do that.
But you got away with it. So that's
kind
when it
of
started.
Yeah. And so, people would see it. Is it good? He's drinking again? Is that good? It just was. So on and off, I would do that. And she liked wine. She, didn't understand. Why can't I have a glass of wine? So, all right, I'll try to have a glass of wine. So I'd have a glass of wine. And do you know how many glasses of wine are in a typical bottle? 5.
Oh.
5.
Okay. I pour
Typically.
a little heavier.
Yeah. Well, there's typically 5. And so who do you think drank 3? Me.
Yeah.
And it just starts that way. And then there was a period of time when, I smoked weed and all I did was smoke weed. I did not drink. I would just smoke weed.
Later,
And
now that you like sobered
later
up
on, I would just smoke weed. Nothing bad ever happened to me when I just smoked weed. Nothing. My whole life, nothing. To this day, I could tell you nothing bad. There were drinking, bad shit happened to me, or drinking and smoking,
yeah.
bad shit happened to me. But just weed, nothing.
Yeah.
Because if you got drunk, you were pretty much finished once you got drunk.
Oh, yeah.
You're at some point you're passing out, you're going to sleep, you're black, something's happening, you're done.
Yeah.
For hours till the morning or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Weed, you could be stoned for a while, and then 2-3 hours later, you're good, man. You're not stoned at all. You're clear-headed. It's gone. The high's gone. Everything's gone, right? You're just smoking.
Yeah.
But I know that it weakens me.
Yep.
That eventually led to me thinking, I could do this. Why can't I drink? It let the demon in. And that's what I mean by the gateway. At least for me, it was a gateway in that point because
cracks the door open.
It cracked the door to allow the alcohol back in. Now I'm in my late 30s. Now I'm drinking. I got a motorcycle, the motorcycle lifestyle, bars.
This is where you got into TV and all that. The radio
All
and
the
TV.
stuff, I was doing. But career-wise, I was doing the best ever, career-wise.
Do you think
at
that's
that
why,
point.
maybe you didn't focus too much on because you were doing so much successful stuff on your career that maybe?
Oh, you're arrogant as fuck. I was arrogant as fuck.
Oh, okay.
Dude. Super arrogant. But most alcoholics are arrogant.
Yeah.
We're self-centered. We're arrogant. We're assholes. We're
you don't
angry.
You don't see the flaws.
We're angry because I'm drinking to bury shit from just stupid things from my youth.
Yeah.
That I was told I wasn't good enough to do this. I wasn't good enough to be in this class. Why wasn't I good enough to be in that class? Who decided because of some test that I wasn't good enough? They started dividing us up late in our elementary years, 5th, 6th grade.
Okay.
Where your main teacher would have all the subjects with you, except for math and reading.
Yeah.
You would go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And they based that on how you scored on a test. This teacher got the top 25 kids. This teacher got the next 25 kids or whatever. Well, I remember that reading-wise, there were 3 different groups.
Yeah.
And I was put in the second group. And then me and my big sister, Joni, were both moved up into the top group.
Okay.
And in math, though, I was put in the second group and not moved up to the first group, which bothered me. And I remember getting hundreds on every paper, not missing any questions on any quiz, any test. I'm like, what do I got to do to get in the top group? And I never got moved up. But it was little things like that that built up over time that,
They pile
you know,
up.
it makes you think,
snowball.
yeah. And like I said, like people call me a bully today. I'm a bully who bullies bullies. That's who I think I am today. But I wasn't big, but I was a good-looking kid, and I was a fighter. I didn't take shit, and I didn't know anything else, and I fought. And so if you didn't fight, then that means you were going to take somebody's shit. You're going to get beat up, picked on. I just didn't take it. But they kept trying for a while, here and there. Wasn't very smart because all it did was get us all suspended.
Yeah.
And, by junior high, I was getting suspended quite a bit, And I didn't even mention that I was a high school dropout. Now, did I?
No, you did not.
Yeah.
The whole car story kind of like threw me
Yeah,
off. I didn't mean to ask you.
So my senior year, I'm getting in all kinds of trouble, all kinds of fights. And I think I got suspended 2 or 3 times for 10 days. Now, granted, I'm one of the top students in construction electricity, one of the 2 top students. But when you take, and this is my junior year, it was my junior year when all that shit happened with driving and everything. So it was that year. So by the time that thing happened, I was a high school dropout. By the time that chase happened.
Gotcha. Okay.
So because, when you have 90 to 100s on all your assignments and tests, and then you factor in 10 days of zeros, your score's not very good.
No.
And then I kept getting suspended, for fighting back. Or, again, like I was little, but there was a point when somebody's behind you and there's going to be a fight and they're bigger than you.
Yeah.
I got in trouble because I said I was defending myself, but I would often throw the first punch or actually pick them up and drop them on the ground because I was a wrestler. So I would do a one-legged takedown and crawl up on top of them and hit them. Dude. What else am I going to do? I'm a little dude.
That's what you know. Oh, yeah.
Because I was, at that point, I'm probably 135 pounds. 135 pounds, dude.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was not a big kid.
I know you got to use your body where you can.
Yeah, why do you think I do this now? What I do now with my body, it's to have that, to say, don't fuck with me. If you must.
Go find
But
out.
you're going to know. Yeah. I don't quit, man. That's my thing. I don't quit anything. I'm going to keep coming. So you may get me, but I'm going to keep coming. It's not going to be good. And that's what happened. And just, I've always had those chips on my shoulder. And I was mad that I didn't get to go to college.
Yeah.
Nobody in my family went to motherfucking college. I mean, extended family. Yeah. Nobody went, man. That just wasn't a thing.
So that was like a really high achievement for you.
But I was taking all of the
placement
college prep courses.
Yeah.
So what happens is this teacher comes into my life in the summer through my dad and says, hey, if you come back to school, I've already talked to him. Look, if you come back, if you finish out this year, you can graduate on time. Even though I pretty much got no credit for my whole junior year, I was still going to have all the qualifications to graduate if I came back, and took his class. And it would be half day of school, and then you had to work was part of the requirements.
Gotcha.
Okay. It was called Ohio Occupational Work Experience or something like that. Something like that. It was for the dumb kids. That's what I thought. It was for the dumb kids. Like, you gonna put me with the dumb kids? All right. So I came back, and that was still under the umbrella of the vocational school.
Okay.
So even though we didn't have class there, and I ended up getting an award at the end of the year for Student of the Year. Because it was easy shit, man. Like he had never had a smart student before. He had dumb kids that could barely fucking read. You know what I mean? And I worked. I did what I had, but I did.
It's clear.
I
it's
did
clear
graduate.
that you always put the effort in. That's clear to see.
Yeah, like I was always looking for a mentor, somebody. That's how I moved up in retail. I was like, what do I have to do? Who becomes managers? Yeah. And the managers, like 60% of the store managers had worked in the suit department. What department you want to work in then? Suit department? And that's also why I'm a very good dresser.
I can
I'm excellent. Yeah.
Yeah,
I wore, for years, I wore Italian suits and French cuff shirts and long time. It's been a while since I've done that, but
like I said,
I did that for a long time. I was GQ, brother.
One of these days, we're going to have to put you in one of those suits.
Dude, I was GQ. Like literally, that was my Bible back at that time. Yeah. So I'm a financial advisor at this point. I struggled for a number of years early on in my career. I became a successful financial advisor. I started doing radio to promote the business, basically. But the radio took off on a life of its own and became more than a financial show. I started doing, like right now, with everything that went on this past week with the stock market and shit, like what I showed you, like the TV stations, at least 2 TV stations would be calling me to get comments, and so that they could come to my office or I could come down there, make some comments they could put on 6 o'clock news.
Yeah.
Okay, I was one of the top people in the city to do that.
And throughout that entire time, you were still drinking.
And I'm drinking, dude.
The entire time?
But at the end of my 30s, I'm drinking a lot, like literally almost every day, pretty much almost every day. Not that I needed to, like I didn't need to have it in the way that my body. Again, like I never had the shakes kinds of things. It's just what I did.
Yeah.
And this is when a motorcycle became part of my life too, as I said, and I'm going to the bars, and my wife's participating in this at this point, you know? And it is the reason that, you know, our marriage ended, my alcoholism, you know, it absolutely is why it ended. And if I had gotten sober a year sooner, the marriage may have been able to be saved. And that's, you know, it's everything is on me. Everything is on me. And I am extreme today about ownership of my life, that even in instances where most people would say, that's not your fault, this person did this to you. No, I allowed them to do that. I put myself in the position that allowed them to do that. It's me. Everything is about extreme ownership today, because if you don't own that, you can't change that. And that's also plays such a big deal in my sobriety and the 15 and a half years that I've been sober, is I've been successful this long because I still take it one day at a time. One day at a time is what works. And so here's what happens. Okay, we'll get to the end of this story. I'm drinking, and well, I got to give one more adventure story.
I think you're missing something in there.
Let me give an adventure story.
I think you're missing something in there.
This is shortly before. This is sometime. Maybe it was the fall of that year. I don't know. But my daughter played on a soccer team, and this other soccer dad got tickets for the World Series.
Oh, wow.
At face value.
Oh, wow.
Got tickets. They released 1,000 tickets. He got a couple tickets. Said, do you want to go? Him and I are going. So I'm like 38 or 39 at this point. And we, middle of the afternoon, we take off and drive to Detroit, which is an hour away, for the Detroit Tigers, St. Louis Cardinals World Series.
Yeah.
And we went to the famous hockey bar across the street from Tiger Stadium. And we eat. It's maybe the bar's half full at that point.
Okay.
Right? The bar's half full at that point. And I've never told this story publicly before. And so I ate. He went off somewhere or something. The bar starts to fill up. And all of a sudden he comes back with 3 young ladies that are like 23, 24.
Yeah.
We're in our late 30s, right? And this is the point where I'm a good-looking chubby dude. And I still have the jacket that I wore that day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a really cool Harley Davidson leather jacket.
Oh, yeah.
It was sweet, dude. It's still sweet today if I'd show it to you. And at one point, we were having such a good time at that bar that security came over to us and basically said, if those ladies show their tits one more time, you're all out of here. Okay.
What a comment to receive.
Okay. So I'm drinking. And we take off and go to some other bar.
Okay.
And I think I drove to this other bar. We leave this bar and we go to another bar. And I don't know what happens. I know the last thing I remember is being outside of the original bar we came back to, and they wouldn't let me in, and that's where my blackout happened. The next thing I remember was waking up in the morning at home, face down in my living room, and I'm wet or something. I don't know. I pissed on the plant in the living room. I do know that. It was like bad, you know. My daughter's room's upstairs. She's looking over the railing, seeing her drunk dad laying face down on the fucking floor. It was not good.
Yeah.
But here's the bad part. I drove home, blacked out. Not only that, I am scared to death that the guy that went with, by the way, we didn't make it into the game. We were having what we thought was such a good time before the game that about 15 minutes before game time, I went outside of the bar and sold the tickets.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. We did not go to the
Jesus.
game. Dude. It's the World Series, and I love sports.
That's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Some random person on the side of the sidewalk.
But that's what you did back then. You could sell tickets. Somebody's selling tickets, so we sold the tickets. And I don't remember anything because I had this wall that came down. This is a blackout. I don't remember driving home, but I did. And I got home, apparently, because I woke up in the living room. But I'm thinking, did I leave him in Detroit? I don't remember bringing him home. And he had parked at a grocery store off of the road as you... right at the line of Ohio and Michigan, you know, so I didn't have to take him home and then drive home. Yeah. It was on the way that we left his vehicle, you know, because that's where we met to go up to Detroit. So I'm calling this stupid motherfucker for hours, trying to find out if he's alive, if he's in Detroit, or if he made it home. He got home. He got home, but I didn't know. Okay. Yeah. So that's one of my other drunk stories. And every alcoholic has these stories like this. They all do. You know, and see, at the time, we think we're dumb enough to think we're having a good time. And see, but when these things would happen like this, you know, I might not drink for a few days because these were what my ex-wife would call, like, she thought these were my come to Jesus moments. Like, this is going to be what sobers him up. This, like, you can't do this anymore. And dude, it'd be 3 days later and I'd be drinking again. You just forget about it. You just go on to the next one. You go on to the next one. So our marriage is not good. In the middle of December, I was teaching, I was training a high school soccer team with a friend of mine who was the coach of that team, who had been one of the coaches with me in a soccer club that I had created. He became the high school soccer coach. Season was over, yet all these kids and even the seniors who were going to be leaving wanted to learn how to lift. Okay, so I went and did that. I started training these kids. On the way back to my office, there was a little cul-de-sac in front of my office. And as I went around this turn, around the circle, a vehicle pulled out in front of me. And I slammed on my brakes, and I didn't hit it. But I honked my horn because I had the right of way, and he pulled completely out in front of me. Well, he flipped me off. And from there, he drove away a little bit. I got out of the vehicle. He decided, I guess, that I didn't look like much. I took off my watch, threw it on the ground. We met. I picked him up, slammed in the ground, started hammer fisting him, and he pulled out a box cutter and stabbed me 5 times. And so now it's known, you know, that I was the poster child, probably still am in Toledo, for road rage. And remember, at this time, at this point in my life, I've still never used any testosterone. Okay.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah. Yeah. When people would say, oh, he must be angry. Dude, I was angry 15,
You
16
should've
years
seen me back
ago.
then.
That's when I was angry. I've gotten better. Okay. And that's how I know that shit is bullshit, dude. It just is. Lots of most alcoholics are angry. And, that was a mess. It got reported in the news, talk show host, financial advisor, stabbed in Perrysburg, more at 11.
Were you drunk?
No,
that was
I
sober.
wasn't drunk. I did that happen sober, but I absolutely believe that my drinking contributed to that incident because of where I was at in my life at that point and how I was acting and with other people and confronting. Yeah. And again, that made my already bad marriage worse. That happened, getting stabbed. Yeah. And then about a month later, I ended up losing the radio gig and everything because of that stuff and things that I said about it on TV after it happened because I was not remorseful, at all. Like, it was like, I'm not going to apologize for beating up that redneck. He deserved it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, fuck that. And so they reported to the Pittsburgh Steelers that I had lost my credentials. The Steelers are in the AFC Championship game against the Baltimore Ravens, and I was going to the game and then found out, I found out maybe a couple days prior that I couldn't go to the game, at least as a journalist, as a reporter, and go in and cover the team. Anyways, I'm still around Pittsburgh, and I was just going to get a scalp ticket and go to the game. But prior to that, I decided that I have enough time. It's early enough in the afternoon. It's 4.5 hours home. I can make it home. I'm going to go back home. I'm going to go back to Toledo. I tried to call my daughter. She was with someone else and doing it. So I still, I'm mad. I can't get a hold of anybody. Yeah. And I drive back to Toledo and I go to this town called Rossford, and a bar in Rossford that I would drink at and where some of my friends would be. The bar was pretty empty. I don't know, but it's the AFC Championship. How's the bar not packed? I don't know why. I just know I was there and I was mad. I'm mad because nobody's here. I'm mad, just being an alcoholic and my life being shit right at that point. Even though outside everything else, up until middle of December was the best it had ever been. Business, TV, being on TV that I showed you, had a column in the weekly paper, everything, I had going for me. And Pittsburgh won the game, I believe. Anyways, it doesn't matter. What matters is I went, I drove home, and I don't know why I took the way I took. Yeah. Must have been the alcohol. And I got pulled over, and I got a DUI. And my wife, ex-wife, had to come get me. And that was my last drink, man. But at that point, I'm mad. But I did have I knew what to do. And I knew what to do because about 6 to 8 months prior to that, my friend Terry, the one I said years and years prior, that the couple that, kind of had originally hooked us up, that he knew I had been drinking again. And Susan hooked me up with him, and he offered to take me to a meeting, and he took me to Thursday Night Men's. And, I'm doing that to try to save my marriage and get sober, but I didn't want to be there. I wasn't interested in getting sober at that point. I did go to the meeting, and then after that, I lied for a while and said I was going to that meeting, and I wasn't, kind of a thing. Yeah. But I knew about that meeting. And so now this is Sunday night that I get arrested, Monday, get arrested. Yeah. And I didn't drink the next few days, and I went to that meeting on Thursday. I went to that meeting that I knew about. And because I liked men's groups, because of the men's group up in Lansing, Michigan, I needed something more hardcore, and it was known as a more hardcore meeting. And then that became my home group. And very early on, I got a sponsor. But the first month month and a half, even 2 months, like I was in a fog, dude. I was going to a meeting every day, but I was angry. Again, my wife was in the process of leaving, moving out, kind of a thing too. That happened. And I didn't know at that point if I wanted the marriage or not. But when the fog cleared, I did. But at that point, it was pretty much too late, to save anything. And I absolutely don't blame her for that or making that choice. She had no idea that would be the time. After all the other times I said I was going to be sober and get sober and stay sober, that this would be the time that actually stuck and worked, which up till now it has. And so I went to that meeting. I got a sponsor. I'm an advocate. Like, I think I'm not saying nobody can do it, because I've known a few people that have done it, but they're the minority. It's a very small single-digit percentage of people that can get sober and stay sober on their own without a program like Alcoholics Anonymous. I believe it is, I'm just going to say it, and people are not going to like it, but I think it's better than rehab. And even though they kind of use the program in rehab, in 30 or 60 days, you can't do the shit you need to do that's in that book, okay, and the steps. It can't be done like that. It just doesn't work. And because you look at the rate that people go back rehab kind of thing, you know what I mean? And I'm not saying people shouldn't do rehab. I'm not saying that. Do whatever you think. You're going to figure it out. Yeah. I'm just trying to say there is no program, any program, that is more successful for addicts than Alcoholics Anonymous. And I think it's good for any addict. Even that's why you have Narcotics Anonymous, but there's just not as many Narcotics Anonymous meetings. And I think, and I've helped people like, look, you need to go to AA. I know this was your thing and alcohol was secondary but this is it. And I don't believe in the alcoholics or the people or addicts. Don't tell me you're sober when you don't shoot up heroin anymore, but you're still smoking weed. You're not motherfucking sober. Okay, maybe your life isn't shit like it was when you were on heroin, but you still haven't fixed shit. And because putting the cork in the bottle is only a very small part of it, really. And probably the easiest part. The hard part is changing your life.
Not opening
and getting
that
better
cork again.
Yeah, that's the hard part. Learning to live. Learning to accept life as life happens on life's terms. And the stupid things we say in AA work. They work. There's a reason that, when people say things like, one day at a time, that it matters. And I used to also, when, we would talk about ourselves and just letting someone else know about us. And like I said, I don't think you can do it either without legitimately going through the steps, where the first time in my 20s, I didn't get through all 12 steps. I was very strong on the first 3, which were very, very important, but I really didn't get far into the ones where you make the changes, which is 4, 5, and 6. Yeah. That's where all the dirty work is.
The hard part, yeah.
That's where you're telling someone and God shit that fucks you up that you don't want other people to know about you. And that's important to go through. It's just important to go through it. So, I mean, I'm not saying that people can't benefit from also, doing therapy. It's still not the same. Maybe you have to do both. But as far as sobriety goes, I don't really give a fuck what other people think. I actually got kicked out of a Facebook group. Yeah. By a group admin or something, because I called him out because the dude smoked weed. Like, you're kidding me. It doesn't work that way, dude. It doesn't work that way, man. Do not represent yourself as sober because you're not. And at that point, and we'll get into this in another episode, how I lost everything and had to start over. But I didn't lose everything. I lost some things, but most of my clients so remember, in a month, I got stabbed. I'm on TV, beating up a redneck. And then a month later, I have a DUI. Dude, I don't think I lost 2 clients over that. That's how good a financial advisor I was and how good I was doing, even being a drunk. Because during the day, I was good at what I fucking did, buddy. I was good. And they were like, please don't do that again.
So we need our financial advisor.
Yeah. And I did that. And the one other big change I would say during that time too, and even today, is, giving back, helping other people just like I was helped. The reason that, AA is still a part of my life is because somebody else needs it. And if I'm not there to help them, if I just leave, and again, can you stay sober? Yeah. Can you get sober without it? Yeah. But what kind of person are you? Have you really made any changes, or you just stopped drinking? Are you just a sober asshole? Because we're all assholes. I've never met an alcoholic that wasn't a fucking asshole, And I was. And I've worked on that since. But I also, this is super important. This is really super important. That when you're doing those steps, and part of those steps is writing down the people that you wronged and owe amends to. And then you take that list and you sit down with your sponsor and you go over it. And there's an extra chair there that's supposed to represent God. And you're sharing with him about this, and you're talking about all these people. At the end of that time, he said, there's one person you left off the list. Do you know who that is? And I didn't know.
Yourself.
It was me. I had left me off that list. And long term, to get sober and stay sober. Staying sober is the goal. But to stay sober, the only way you can stay sober is one day at a time. I can't stay sober tomorrow. Tomorrow ain't here. I have no control over that. And if I wasn't sober yesterday, well, I can't do anything about that now either, because I can only do it today. And the whole concept is also not just realizing that you're not God, but realizing that this is all you have. This is all you can control, is right now. And pretty much anybody, even the worst addict, can probably stay sober for 24 hours. And you really don't have to stay sober for 24 hours, because let's just say you sleep 6. We won't even say 8. You sleep 6. You really only have to stay sober for 18. And that's it. That's the whole goal. All you got to do is stay sober for 18 hours. Stay sober for that day. And then what happens is you just do it again the next day. How about we just do it today? And they stack up all by themselves without you even counting. It's cool to get a 30-day coin and 60-day and a year. It's all cool. But those don't really mean anything in the big picture, because what matters is just today. And that's how I say, because if you'd have asked me 16 and a half years ago, do you think you could stay sober for over 15 years, Troy? I'd be like, fuck no. Why would I think I could when I had never done that? Yeah. I'd never done that. So what evidence would I have to show that I could do it now? Yeah. None. I didn't know it was possible, because our whole culture is also wrapped around alcohol.
Oh yeah. It's a pretty big part.
And I can be around it today. That kind of stuff doesn't bother me, because if I wanted to drink again, I would drink again.
Yeah.
And it would be my choice to do it. And it doesn't matter. I mean, we don't have any alcohol in our home. I have been with other people who've drank, my soon to be ex-wife, Shelly, she would drink a little, she never really got drunk or anything, but she would have a drink occasionally when we would go out. None of that ever bothered me. If she had some alcohol in the refrigerator, it didn't bother me, because if there was no alcohol in my house and I wanted alcohol, I would just go fucking get it like I always did before. Yeah. I would drive to the bar or drive to, the liquor store.
Yeah, whatever you need to.
Yeah. I mean, here in Arizona, it's different. You
just go to the gas station right down the street.
It's everywhere here.
Oh, yeah.
So it's just a choice. And I don't miss it, man. I don't miss it. But I do keep I don't ever want to be too cocky about it. Like that it can't, do I think it can happen again? No, I don't really think I don't think it will. But I won't say that it can't. I don't want to give it that edge. And I certainly have no desire to want to try to control it, because I tried every way in the world to control it, dude. I tried different types of alcohol. I tried drinking it different ways. I tried counting. None of those things are things that people who aren't alcoholics have to do. None of those people have to do that shit. Like, hey, you might have a problem if, And I definitely did. And now, it's part of my story. It's, I can help other people and show other men, especially, how they can get their lives back. And, I don't have time to share about it now because we've gone on a pretty long time, but, there is some bad shit that's happened to me in the last 15 years, and things that you would normally drink over. And I didn't drink over those things, but you normally, you would. If I wanted an excuse, I had them.
You had them.
Yeah. Because my life didn't just become rosy after stopping drinking. I didn't get my wife and family back. A number of years after being sober, I lost everything I had. I didn't lose everything I had when I was a drunk.
Yeah.
I was a financially successful drunk. Being broke again happened after being sober.
It's weird
Just
how that
sucked.
works, huh?
Yeah. You think, well, your life gets better after you're sober. No, mine didn't just get better. There are definitely things that got way the fuck worse, dude. Way worse. But it's still those principles and sticking with the program that helped me through those times, and to continue on and to drive and be here today, and to be doing this podcast, to be doing this episode, that maybe it helps someone else out there that needs this and is looking to get their shit together.
I want to say this because I don't know if you tell yourself, but I'm proud of you.
Thanks,
I really am, man. That takes a lot. That really does. And especially like having to go through what you've gone through and stuff like that, and being able to be where you're at. Like that's dope, man. It really is.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So, definitely if someone wants to comment, there's ways to reach out, and I do reach back absolutely when I can on my social media. Also with, a lot of guys that have come to me, about testosterone and hormone replacement therapy. They've had issues with alcohol, and they say, hey, man, I heard you talking about this. And, that's why I do this thing and do it the way that I do it, to just be honest about who I am and where we're at. And if I can do something for somebody and help them in their life, that's that's definitely what I want to do, because that's just, I think, part of the purpose that God has for me. What you go through is your testimony. And I couldn't do it without God. And he was there my whole life and that whole time. You do not have to be a believer in God to get into AA. You just have to believe that there's a higher power and that you're not it. That's what you have to believe. And if you later on that becomes God for you, that's great. But for me, it was God from the beginning of getting into AA, because that was just my story. And I don't believe in God because my parents made me believe in God, or because of church or growing up that way or things like that, you know. I believe in God because I've seen his work in my life. Like, literally just know that certain shit just wouldn't have happened, and I wouldn't be here without his hand being in my life. And that's just my story, you know. And we all have our own story. So that's it. There you go, people. That's it. Thank you for letting me do this. And I've never done it like this thoroughly or this public like this before, but it felt good to do. And hey, come back, see us again. This is the Outlaw Apostle Show. I'm Troy Neff. I'm the fucking guy.
Whoa! Who knew I would make it this far? They hated, they never believed me. Yeah, I would never drop the ball. I know I make it look easy. Yeah. Mayweather with the defense. I don't care what a critic got to say. I got them picking up the pieces. That mean you really playing with your life.